One. Done.
Hello, today I would like to share with you two thoughts that I've been challenged with this week. One's about children and one's about old ladies. I'm also going to show you how much applesauce I made last week. I was making apples last week when I was making the video. And I'm going to show you how I've been using it because I challenged myself to see how many different ways I could use it up. I'm going to show you what I got done on Saturday and some simple living tips related to that. And I'm going to show you another good lunchbox snack, a frugal living tip, and what I found at the oppshop this last week. So I'm going to fold washing while I talk. One of the thoughts to do with my children, I find it very difficult to be consistent. So this last week one of my children was really having trouble keeping his room tidy. It just seemed to always be a big mess, and he'd get angry when I tell him to tidy up, but if I didn't tell him to tidy up, then it would get such a big mess that it would be so overwhelming for him to tidy up, and then he would cry when it was time to tidy up. So I didn't know what to do, and my husband was helping me with getting him to tidy it up, and I sometimes feel like a dripping tap. Every day you're saying tidy up, tidy up, tidy up, and I don't like telling them all the time, but I realized that a lot of the problem is my fault because I'm not very consistent. And there is one principle or one rule that I've told my children, and that is if they leave things on the floor when they've tidied up, because every morning before school or after breakfast and every evening before they go to bed they're supposed to tidy up their rooms. So if when they've tidied up there are still things on the floor, that means they don't want it, because they're treating it like rubbish if they just leave it lying all over the floor. So I've told them that if they leave things lying on the floor when they've tidied up, then I'm going to treat it like rubbish and I'm going to get rid of it. So if they value it, if they want to keep it, they need to keep it picked up off the floor when it's tidy up times. So that is a principle that I have told them, but I realize that my problem is that I'm not consistent with it. I don't stick to it. And there are principles that work if you stick to them, like say for example in the summer, if it's dry and if you water your garden, it works to water your garden if you do it consistently. If you only do it once a month or whenever you remember, it's not going to do much good. And so if children know that you're not going to follow through on your word, those kind of principles won't do any good because they know you're not going to stick to it. So I was challenged with the thought that I need to be more consistent on that. And so I told them that rule again, and I've been sticking to it this last week, and it's made such a huge difference. So because I hadn't been very consistent, I wasn't that strict with it at first. Like if I saw things still lying on the floor that I knew that they wanted, I would say, hey, do you not want this anymore? So then they'll come back and pick it up. But they are getting much better at keeping the floor tidy because they know that I will, get rid of those things if they don't pick them up. Of course that can apply to everything. I'm not going to throw away their pajamas or their shoes or things like that. So then you need a different consequence for that. But if it's just their own stuff that, if they value it, they should put it away in a safe place because they have safe places to put their things. So that can apply to anything. Principles and things don't work unless you're consistent with it. So, and the second thought was that me and my husband work quite a bit with old people, and this last week there were 3 different days that we were with old people, and I was talking the other night to my husband about it because there are two specific old ladies that we were talking about. And I thought I want to be like them when I get old. If I am ever as old as they are, I hope that I'm like them because they're both they're both quite funny. They laugh about things. They're very cheerful people to be around, and they're just very fun and cheerful. And yet both of them are widows. They both lost their husbands. One of them never had children. I guess she couldn't. And so that's a sad thing. She's a widow and she's got no children. And the other lady was a widow as well, and one of her children died, I think, and the other one lives overseas. So they both could be very gloomy old people because they've got things to be sad about, and yet they're very delightful people to be around. Last time we saw them, they were laughing and telling us about something, different things people had said to them that they could have thought was very insulting, and yet they were laughing about it. And I thought, I hope when I get old that I'm like that I can take a joke, that I don't take life too seriously, that I'm thankful and cheerful and not gloomy. And it reminds me of a verse in the Bible, which is Proverbs 15 verse 15, and it says, all the days of the afflicted are evil, but he that's of a merry heart hath a continual feast. So in other words, if you're gloomy, everything seems to go wrong. Whereas when you're cheerful, everything seems much better. And a few verses before that it says, a merry heart maketh... Oh no, that's not the one I was thinking of. I was thinking of the one, a merry heart doeth good like a medicine, but a broken spirit drieth the bones. It's kind of another proverb along the same lines. So you can challenge yourself with that thought. If you were an old lady right now, or an old person right now, would you be like those two lovely, cheerful old people, or would you be grumbling and complaining all the time about everything? There's also another old lady I know who she's always doing something for other people. She's always either visiting somebody or, you know, like she just really cares about people and is always helping somebody. So that's another old person I would like to be like. But yeah, I guess if we want to be like that when we're old, we've got to start now while we're younger. So something that is really yummy for breakfast, which is made with rolled oats, is baked oatmeal. I think it might be common in America, but in New Zealand I've never heard of it before. This is from my Amish cookbook, and what you need is rolled oats, sugar, baking powder and margarine or butter, and some milk and salt. And I'm also going to add in some of this applesauce to use it up, and I also like vanilla in it as well. So anyway, you just mix these things together and then cook it in the oven for about 30 minutes, and then you can stick it in the fridge and have it cold, or you can always have it warm as well. But it's a really nice thing to have for breakfast. And I forgot the eggs. So this is what it looks like before it goes in the oven. This time I use quick oats. I don't usually use quick oats. I've actually never used quick oats before with this because I like to buy the other oats, but this time I had to buy these oats. So I'm going to pop it in the oven while my potatoes and kumara are roasting. Then we can eat it in the morning for breakfast. Now here it says add milk or a scoop of ice cream. Usually we add a bit of milk and it makes it not quite so dry. This is what it says down the bottom of the recipe. Okay, so this last Saturday I was feeling much better than the Saturday before. I didn't have any headaches or anything, so I was able to get one of the jobs on my to-do list done. A while ago I shared about having a to-do list and, you know, just trying to slowly get them done. So one of the jobs was to clean up our driveway because we have gardens along the fence along the driveway, and that was all kind of overgrown with weeds in there, and there were flowers that had died off, and it just needed to be cut back and weeded and just cleared out of it. And it's a job that took a little bit longer than other jobs, but I was my husband was working outside. He was trimming some bushes, so I was able to go outside with him and I was able to get that all done. I did have to put Lydia inside with the other children because she likes to be right next to you and you can hardly move without tripping over her, and she likes your attention all the time. So I did put her inside, but I did get it all done. So it looks much better now, and I was pleased with that. But it also makes me think that, you know, our houses can be a little bit like gardens in that way. Like the gardens in summer, they are really pretty with all the flowers, like the big daisies that grow along there. And then in spring, it's pretty with the bulbs. And then there's a rose bush there as well. But once those are flowered, they're not so pretty anymore. They really need, you know, you need to cut away the dead things. Yeah, it's not pretty after a while. You have to kind of keep on top of it. And our houses can be like that too. The things that we don't need anymore kind of become clutter, and they can be like the flowers that have all died off and they're just not pretty anymore. So just like we need to keep on top of our gardens and pull out the, you know, the dead, cut off the dead flowers and the, you know, the dead leaves and dead branches, we should do that in our houses too, and get rid of the things that are just clutter, that we don't need anymore, that we don't want anymore, and that we don't enjoy anymore. And then we have more room for the things that we do enjoy. And about, I don't know, maybe 3-4 years ago, I got really overwhelmed with the amount of stuff in our house. And although before that I had tried, like I would every now and again have a big declutter, but then everything would just creep back in again, and it wasn't like a lifestyle. It was more just every now and again when, you know, everything gets overwhelming, then you have a, you know, declutter things. But for the last few years I've tried to live that way, like continually getting rid of things and try not to bring so much into the house. But one thing I have found neat with the children is that when you don't have so many toys, they do get very creative, and they can play neat games without making any mess and without really using much. Like I remember back then, my husband was working on a building in town that we have, which is where we work with old people. And I went along one day to, I think I was, either I just went along to have a look or went along to help him with something. And so the children were there too, and the whole time we were there they played hide and seek. But the thing was, there was nowhere really to hide, and yet they spent the whole time playing hide and seek, having a great time, and it really amazed me. And just this last week, I've seen it again with them. They've been playing blind man's bluff the whole week, and they've been having really a lot of fun. And they have this thing here, I don't even know what it is, it's some kind of a case, but they've been putting that on their head like that, and been playing blind man's bluff, and they've been having a great time. So it is neat the things that your children come up with when they're not surrounded by so much stuff. They get more creative and kind of come out with games like that. And another simple living tip is that it's easier to keep your space tidy if your storage spaces are minimal or not too full and uncluttered. So by storage spaces, I mean like your bookcases and your drawers and whatever cupboards you use for storage, and your closets. If they are really full, because when things are out of sight in the cupboard, it's easy to keep things for ages that you never use anymore. And they're so full that it's hard to tidy, you know, your lounge or your room, because there's nowhere to put them away, because those storage spaces are all really full or overflowing. Whereas if you go through those things and only keep things that you do need and that you do use or that you do really like still, then it's a lot easier to keep the rest of your house tidy, because then you have space to put things away. So at the moment I have two little areas that I need to declutter or sort out, so that I do have space to put those things away. So at the moment I keep seeing books on top here, and it's because they can't fit in. So I need to have a little sort out of the bookcase, see if there's any books we don't need anymore, so that we can actually fit them all in. And this is another place, you can hardly fit pens in here anymore, and so it means pens fall out and lie over the desk, so I need to sort them out too and take out what doesn't need to be in there. So like if your drawers and your closets are so full of clothes, it's harder to put away the washing, because you know you can hardly fit it in there anyway. And it's a little bit like too, like if your rubbish is full, then rubbish ends up everywhere, because yeah, it's hard to put rubbish away when it's already full, so you need to, you know, keep emptying the rubbish. And for children too, it's easier for them to put away their stuff if those storage places are not too full. So the lunchbox snack is peanut butter bars, and I do remember putting that recipe on my mum's blog once, so I will link it down below. But well, it's a little bit like making a cake. Doesn't need any icing, which I like things that you don't have to put icing on. Takes a little bit less time. And you can sprinkle icing sugar on top. But they're kind of firm and a little bit crunchy on the outside and then soft and chewy on the inside, and they're really nice. So yummy. So one frugal living tip is to use the stock from meat and make soup out of it. So yesterday I thought I put a silver side, a corned beef, in the slow cooker, and when I got it out at dinner time it was brown. And I realised I'd put a top side roast in and not a corned beef. But anyway, I thought I would make soup out of the stock. My children really like soup when it's all blended, and it's a really good way to use up vegetables. And at the op shops this week I found these school sandals for Lydia. Hopefully they'll fit her next year because she needs new sandals for then anyway, and these look pretty new. They're $1.50. And I also found a denim skirt for me. I find it really hard to find denim skirts that are comfortable and that fit nicely, but this one is really stretchy, and it's stretchy around the waist as well. And it's a good length too, so I was happy with that, and that was only $2.